Greetings, Rovers. Over the past few days, I've been discussing the best tactics for re-rolling your account. In my previous video, which I will have linked below, I went over the best way to re-roll your account and the ways to get fast and free pulls and pull currency. Today I will be discussing in the tier list format the characters you should and shouldn't be looking for when doing your re-rolls. This is not necessarily a strength guide. This is a guide strictly focusing on where the characters fall for how important they are to re-roll for. At the end of the day, you should be re-rolling for your characters you want, not necessarily the most powerful. Starting effective today, I am announcing a $100 giveaway for Wuthering Waves towards your pulls to all of my subscribers. This giveaway will end at 12 PM CST on May 22nd, and the winners will be rolled then. All you need to do is press that subscribe button. This will be an easy 5-star for you. For every 5,000 subscribers past my current count, I will be adding an additional $100 winner. And I know you guys are getting tired of me saying this, but this information is subject to change on release, and it is all based on beta test information. So while I am discussing each of the characters, I will also be discussing some suggestions for the team composition, and who generally they will pair with the best. This way you can keep an eye out for your additional pulls to see if you manage to snag someone ideal for your resonator when pulling. Keep in mind, all of these discussions are based on the characters at resonance level 0. This means you only have one copy of them, and we will not be taking into account any of their resonance effects. Alright, so a little bit of a disclaimer. As I talk through these teams, I'm going to assume 99% of players are running a 3-composition team with a healer. Main DPS, sub DPS, and healer. And if you aren't, sorry, you're not that guy, buddy. But seriously, the vast majority of players in this game will want to run a healer. Verina is the most obvious choice, but Bai Z is a close second if you don't pull Verina, as Bai Z is a completely free unit. Before we get started, let's start with the free tier. Chixia, the gun-wielding fusion DPS. Bai Z, the glacial healer. Yang, the arrow damage dealer. Sanhua, the glacial sword user. And Yanhua, the electro fighter daddy. All of these resonators will be given to you for completely free for completing the story, or in Sanhua's case, 5 days of logging in through her event. Obviously as well, the rover, both male and female, are also free. And no, you don't get both copies, you only get one, depending on which gender you choose when you launch the game. Alright, so jumping into it, first of all, we're going to talk about Verina. We're starting off strong here, as Verina, in my honest opinion, is the best unit in the game currently. While Verina on her own is relatively weak, it's the buffs and healing she provides to her allies that make her an absolute beast. While I'm not going to go insanely deep into her kit, her 2 inherent abilities, Grace of Life, which will automatically resurrect your resonator when taking fatal damage in combat, and providing them with a massive shield upon resurrect. This can only happen every 10 minutes, but I cannot state how absolutely bonkers this is, especially in endgame content. This gives you so much room for mistakes, it's unreal. Secondly, Gift of Nature, where Verina gives all allies a 20% damage boost for 20 seconds. Easy S++ tier. If you get her upon your first few pulls, or your first few dozen pulls, you should keep the account and not consider re-rolling in any capacity. Verina will pair well with both Danjin and Taqi, both insanely good Havoc DPS, and make an absurdly good team. However, on the flip side of that, Verina can basically be used in any mosh-posh of a team that you throw together, even if they don't work together. That's one of the beauties of running Verina. You could basically throw any 2 units into the team with her and still come out ahead, just because of the massive buffs that she provides. This way, you can choose 2 DPS that you absolutely adore their designs of, and not necessarily worry about having a meta team comp. If you just run people that you like the most because of their design or playstyle, Verina is the choice for you. Alright, so now let's talk about the second lolly in the game, Encore, who is a fusion sub-DPS that has a relatively fun playstyle. Ultimately, she just falls short of the damage and utility that other resonators give. There's currently not much fusion synergy in the game, Chixia realistically being the only other fusion DPS worth their salt. Even then, they don't necessarily increase each other's damage, they're both just fusion units. Until we get some real fusion synergy, with a change to someone's kit, or even a new resonator, her team comp is pretty open. As always, I suggest a healer for the third shot, Verina or Baizi. Otherwise, you can run Danjin and Taqi and go full DPS with no healer. Although I doubt Encore will see much play with that comp, which ultimately means I should need to be putting Encore at a B tier. Alright, so next up we have Sephiroth. Kakarot. Calcharo. He's an Electro main DPS who has one of the most fun playstyles in the game. Calcharo's damage output is absolutely absurd, and there has been discussions on the internet that some of his skills are going to be changed, like his intro skill, which is being completely buffed. If you are pulling for Yinlin late on, he's an obvious pick for you. Until then, Mortefi is a great teammate as his outro skill increases heavy attack damage. There's currently some discussion in the community at the moment if the heavy attack damage increases his electro damage when he's in his ult, but we'll have to wait and see. Calcharo's high damage output for little investment will single-handedly carry your team through an early and mid-game. Easily A tier. Now for the crowd favorite Jianxin, the punching babe who deals arrow damage and is considered a sub-DPS. Huge warning here as I'm talking about this, she is receiving a rework on launch, and although nothing has been confirmed concrete yet, as it stands, she's the worst 5-star to pull for. Just because her kit is so slow and clunky and everything feels easily interruptible. She will pair well with Chixia as Jianxin's outro increases ultimate damage by a ton, which Chixia deals massive ult damage. Jianxin being able to group up enemies for Chixia's ult will be huge. Again, this may change once we have more information on her rework. And that means I have to put her at a C tier. Lingyang, the furry glacial brawler. His damage is middling, but there's just something about his playstyle and character that scratches a good itch in my brain. Especially after the Resonator preview, where they went into depth on his story a little bit further. If you like punching and kicking the heck out of everything, this is for you. He seems to have a low skill floor, as his attacks and combos aren't complicated in the slightest. If you want to turn your brain off, he's the Resonator for you. He will pair well with the free guaranteed 4-star Senhua, although keep in mind we won't receive her until the 5th day of the login event, so you can stick with the rover for the time being. Senhua's element is also ice, and her skills will complement Lingyang. He's a solid B tier behind Encore. Daddy Jian, the arrow dancing main DPS. Okay, so it's a bit harder to refill for Jian due to being on the limited banner, but he's worth it. Keep in mind the amount of premium pulls we will get is much lower than that of the free standard banner pulls, so he's going to be a bit more of a pain in the butt to reroll for. He's more focused on AoE fighting, where he will excel in fighting multiple mobs at a time, as his ultimate turns his attacks into a circle around the character. His damage is slightly lower on single target to make up for this, and Jian will pair well with Aalto, whose outro ability increases arrow damage. He's definitely going to be in the A tier right behind Calcharo, or maybe even equal to Calcharo. It's absurdly close, and ultimately probably just you just focus on your playstyle, which you like more. Mommy Yinlin isn't in the game until 3 weeks after launch, when Jian's banner closes and Yinlin's banner opens. I shouldn't even be covering her on this list, but at the end of the day, it's Mommy Yinlin, so she gets an S tier just for even being here. Danjin, the Havoc Swordsman. Her damage in the closed beta test was absolutely busted, and everyone is sleeping on her. Her and Taqi will be an absolute powerhouse of a team together, although getting both of these 4-stars will be a bit harder than getting one specific 5-star. Assuming Danjin's damage doesn't get nerfed, she's going to sit in S tier. But please note, I have a feeling she's going to get a massive nerf on release, which will drop her tier significantly depending on how much damage she is nerfed by. If I had to theorycraft for a second, there might have been some issues with the multiplicative damage on her ult, which was where the majority of her damage was coming from, which probably at the end of the day was a bug. I think Kuro Games realizes this, as they don't want a 4-star to really outshine DPS of the 5-stars like Calcharo and Jianxin. So again, while she's an S tier, there's a huge warning that comes with her, and wait until we get the real numbers of Danjin at launch, once people have had a chance to test her, before re-rolling an account with her. So I was basically talking about Taqi with a pair with Danjin and Verina, as they pretty much complement each other and don't really fit into any other team, as they are both Havoc damage dealer. Although Taqi is a little bit more defensive, she does pump out some pretty decent damage when built correctly, as she scales off of her defenses. For that reason alone, I'm going to put her in a B tier, right behind Lingyang. Keep in mind though, this is considering Danjin and Taqi together. If you just have Taqi, I don't foresee them being in the B tier, if anything down to a C or a D tier. But because they have such high requirements, I'm going to keep her in a D tier for now, just because I think it makes a little bit more sense, and I really don't want to come off as misleading. Next up, we have Aalto, the Gunslinger Arrow DPS. I can't front, I've got a soft spot for this guy. I mean, have you seen those shades? His DPS is middling, it will be seen as a sub-DPS due to his outro skill, but man is he going to be fun to play, and his animations are absolutely clean. Due to the focus on his outro skill, Aalto has a huge advantage in which one of his heavy attacks is a guaranteed crit every 30 seconds, which the timer counts down even while Aalto is not on the field. This means his burst potential is huge, and he's going right in B, right behind Lingyang. If you've got as much of a soft spot for him as I do, he could be built in more or less any team, but Lingyang is going to be a decent alternative if you're unable to get both Aalto and Jianxin. And lastly, we have Taqi, the fusion gunslinger. He has a very flashy playstyle, which I absolutely adore. If you're a fan of the Devil May Cry series, you're going to absolutely fall in love with him. His DPS is in line with the other 4-stars aside from Danjin, and due to him having some potential team cons with Calcharo, I'm going to have to put him at a high B just above Aalto. And you may be asking yourself, so what exactly does the perfect team look like on day 1? Well, personally, if it were up to me, the team I'm going to be running is Calcharo, Verina, and Taqi. I think this team is absolutely going to slaughter everything it throws its way, and once Yinlin comes out, we can replace Taqi with Yinlin, and this team will absolutely slaughter anything in the game while still having the defensive benefit of Verina, excuse me. And that about does it. Let me know in the comments below how you feel about this. Do you feel there's anything I'm way off base on? What resonator are you most excited for? And as always guys, I sincerely appreciate every one of you. We're so close to 10k I can taste it. So please consider smashing that like button, and remember I am doing a $100 giveaway for Wuthering Waves that will end on May 22nd. One lucky subscriber is going to win, and it could be you. And for every 5,000 more subscribers I get past where I'm currently at, I'm going to add an additional $100 to it. So, let's see how high we can get it, and let's make me go poor. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next one. Later.